Welcome back to Eat Sleep Boxing Repeats YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Paul and Danny. We are looking at the best boxing odds ahead of Saturday night. Claressa Shields versus Savannah Marshall, live on Sky Sports. As you all probably all know by now, if you go to the link in the description of this video, click the link and please purchase the fight if you haven't done so already, if you are not already a Sky customer. Really appreciate it if you could do that. So thank you very much. Gents, looking forward to this one. It's a 50-50 fight. Interested to see what you've come up with. Going to keep it fairly short and sweet. I'm going to go to Danny first. Danny, what will you be betting on Saturday night?
First of all, I'm surprised you've had me back on one of these betting shows after my 0 for 3 show on the latest show at the weekend. But glad to be here. The bet I've picked out is Savannah Marshall on points, which you can get as big as 29-10. More commonly around 11-4. I just think as big a puncher as Savannah Marshall is, she's not been in there regardless of Claressa Shields' level. I do think, as she sort of hinted at in interview, she's been very clear to say that she's never said she'll stop Claressa, but she will hurt her. And I think if she does land on Claressa Shields early, that'll sort of make Shields a bit more tentative, and she won't be able to sort of implement the style that's, seen her had the success to date. And I think Savannah can have a lot of success from that point, just sort of flicking behind that jab, that sort of style that Peter Fury is known for implementing with his fighters. I think the fact it's in the O2 in London probably won't do any harm as well. So for that reason, I think the sort of near 3-1 you can get in places is a really good price.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always thought this fight is a bit of the unknown because we obviously Marshall's a massive puncher, and I think the main question from this fight is, can Claressa Shields take a punch from Savannah Marshall? And if she can, I think Claressa Shields will win this fight. But if she can't, Savannah Marshall, she won't necessarily kind of stop her. She hasn't stopped all of her opponents. But maybe if she can kind of drop her, maybe kind of rock her enough to win some rounds, and we shall see. We shall see. But I think what you're saying, the points decision, is being overlooked by a lot of people. It's not kind of impossible. So I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I think like as big a puncher Savannah Marshall is, obviously last time out that knockout over Femke Hermans was massive. Like, she's not Deontay Wilder. It's not like an absolute given that she's going to stop everyone she steps in the ring with. Women's boxing sort of notorious for not having as many knockouts, the shorter rounds. So I think the fact that in most places the decision is a slightly bigger price, I think is a segment of value at least.
Absolutely. Paul, going to hand over to you now. Are you agreeing with Danny? Are you disagreeing with Danny? Which way are you turning towards for this one?
Yeah, thanks, Eliot. I think everything Danny has said there, I echo really. I was looking at where I thought the value was in this fight, and before I always like to pick what I think the outcome will be before I look at any odds. And I was thinking about Marshall on points as well. The only thing I'll perhaps add is, I know Danny alluded to it there about it being in the O2. English fighter fighting in England. If it's a close fight, will she, get those closer rounds? Those rounds that could be given 10-10 or even 10-9 the other way, and that are nip and tuck. Are they going to be given to Savannah Marshall? I don't want to say that they will be, but in essence, let's be honest, if it's a really close round and you can pick either lady, it's more than likely the judges are going to give it to Savannah Marshall. Which for our bet, obviously, hope that does happen. Obviously, we're supporting the Brit here. We do want her to win. The only thing I will add is 11-4. I'm saying for points. If you think that Marshall could win unanimously, it's 4-1. So just even better odds there. I think that what you just said is interesting. I think there's just something about Claressa Shields. I know she doesn't necessarily carry an unbelievable amount of power in her punches. And I think if Shields is the win, it'll be on points. But I think that, Shields is coming over here. I don't think there's any doubt in her mind that she's going to win. So she is definitely going to come to win. But I think that if you're Savannah Marshall and Peter Fury and that game plan that you want to implement, you don't want to be in range of Clarissa Shields so she can get her combinations off. So boxing on the back foot, using your height and reach advantage, I think is the wisest way to go here if you're Team Marshall. So I can see it being, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I can see it being not a particularly amazing fight. And it, you know, it going the full distance. And the difference here is, like, when we're talking about a unanimous decision, normally for a men's fight, it's 36 minutes it's going to have to go. You know, it's only really 20 minutes that this fight has to go, which is, you know, a lot shorter. So that's why women's knockouts are so infrequent. You know, on in the big fights, because you know, you've got 2 minutes really each time to hurt your opponent, and then they've got another minute to get back to their senses. So 2 minutes isn't a lot of time. You're going to need to really hurt them at the beginning of the round. But yeah, I think the decision for Marshall, I do agree here. Maybe be a little bit more, if you want to be a little bit more daring, put the money on the unanimous decision. I could see her potentially knocking Clarissa Shields down. You know, that would obviously help our case for a unanimous decision, a 10-8 round in there. But yeah, I think I'm definitely in agreement with Danny that if Marshall wins, I think it'll be on points. I don't see this whole it's Shields on points or it's Marshall by knockout. I don't see that at all.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Just 2 things from me, gents. I think one kind of bet that's stuck out to me is Savannah Marshall rounds 1 to 5, 7 to 1. Savannah Marshall's last 3 fights have all ended in 3 rounds, except those last 3 fights haven't been against Clarissa Shields, and this fight will be harder than those last 3. However, in my opinion, if Savannah Marshall is going to win this fight and is going to win by stoppage, I can see it's more likely to be in the first half than the second half. I think she needs to start fast, not let the fight get away from her, not let Shields get into too much of a rhythm, not let Shields get too used to her. And then I just think odds of 7 to 1 are a bit too tempting to miss for me. But that's just my opinion. One thing from me I wanted to ask about, as always, when there's a big fight, Paul touched on it earlier, want to ask about knockdowns. I'll go back to Paul. Do you think Savannah Marshall will get a knockdown or more in this fight?
You know what? I'm gonna go on a limb here and say, yeah, I think she could maybe catch Clarissa Shields cold early. So I'm kind of agreeing with what you're saying in the first half of the fight. Don't necessarily think she'll finish her, but yeah, I could see her getting a flash knockdown in the first, second, third round, but then winning it on points. So yeah, what price would one knockdown in favor of Marshall be?
Evens. So if you can get a knockdown at any time, it doesn't matter how many knockdowns she gets, she just needs to score a knockdown, and that's evens. And if you consider her punching power, and I think there's a chance Savannah Marshall could score a knockdown but then still lose the fight. That's definitely a possibility as well. So yeah, that's something to consider as well. Danny, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree completely. That was sort of what I was hinting at in like the overall preview, is that once Shields tastes the power early, she will be more cautious. And that could definitely be in the form of a knockdown. And I agree with what you said. If Savannah is going to catch her, it's more likely to be early. Evens for Savannah Marshall to score a knockdown or more is a pretty good price, to be fair. It depends how cautious Shields approaches it from the start. I mean, she's obviously had all this bravado in the build-up that, like, she's not too concerned about Savannah Marshall's power and she'll eat them like Scooby snacks, I think is what she says. But they say a lot of things, don't they? So if Shields is that sort of carefree about Marshall's power, I think she definitely could get caught early. I don't know if she will be, though. I think she knows how hard Savannah Marshall punches.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Short and sweet, but enjoy that, gents. Excited to discuss the odds, excited to see what happens on Saturday night. But yeah, thank you very much for both of your time. Really, really, really appreciate it.